If you're a property owner, more specifically an investor, you may have gone through the renting process before, or at the very least, you probably thought of what that process may look like. And more than likely, it's something along the lines of, I call my realtor, I put the property on the market, in my state that would be the MLS, then they find me a qualified tenant who's responsible, well vetted, and pays their rent on time. Does that sound familiar? Or at least something that you probably heard or thought of before? Well, today, I wanted to share with you all a quick story that recently took place for me that brings to light a not so well-known issue in the real estate market that affects landlords, and how by working with realtors whose interests aren't necessarily aligned with yours, it may cost you thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars. And let's not forget about the months that you're going to basically waste and never be able to get back. I'll also share with you a better alternative for you to consider the next time you're in the market to rent your home or your investment property. But before we dive into all of that, let me provide you some context as to me and what I do so you can have a better understanding as to where all of this is coming from. So for those of you new to the channel, my name is Steven Vargas, and for the last 10 years, I've worked in the real estate industry. I started as a real estate agent, helping my clients buy, sell, and rent their properties, typical realtor stuff. And I have a team. Since then, I've grown a team, and they actively do, and I still actively do, a lot of real estate on the residential side to this day. However, about 5 years ago, I bought my first rental property, and I started off on the journey of becoming an investor, mostly buying multifamily properties using a strategy called seller financing, but that's a topic for another video. But the point is that becoming an investor led me to open a property management company. Why? Because I needed a place or someone to manage my growing renter portfolio, and I just thought that, I could do it better than anybody else. And that led some of my clients to seek my help in buying rentals, because they were seeing the success that I was having and they wanted to replicate that in their investments as well. So then that led me to manage their rental properties and through my property management company. And as you can see, the cycle continues and it basically feeds itself. Why am I telling you all of this? Well, it's because I want you to see the different hats that I wear when it comes to a real estate deal. As I'm sure you can imagine, knowing different sides of the real estate transaction has its many benefits. As of late, I'm definitely spending more of my time helping my clients buy investments. And then I list them as a realtor, and with the intention of finding a qualified tenant, since my company will also manage that tenant. In that scenario, you can see how our interests are aligned, right? That with my clients, because I want to find them a good investment, which provides them with a great return so they can keep investing with me in the future. But furthermore, I want to screen tenants diligently, because my company, after all, be the ones who handle the day-to-day with that resident. So I definitely want to make sure that they're vetted, qualified, and they pay their rent on time. And that's as important to me as it probably is to them. That brings me as to why I'm making this video. Very recently, I had a rental listing which was gaining a lot of traction and interest, and I received a lot of offers on this property. However, many of them just weren't qualified, usually due to things like low to rent income ratios, inconsistent employment verification, and other factors. We have what I think is a very fair and streamlined screening process for any tenant and any resident for that matter. And as you can imagine, there are certain documents and information which I and other companies are going to request in order to accurately qualify a potential future resident. And it isn't uncommon for me to get a lot of pushback from realtors throughout this process. I hear things like, why are you asking for all of this information? None of the other realtors or owners even asked for this. Don't you want to just rent this property and move on? And therein lies the problem. No, I don't want to just put in any tenant in there and just move on, because my team and I, we don't move on. We have to deal with this resident every day after they move into the property, which directly affects my bottom line and my clients' bottom lines, if we're being honest. And since my clients and I's interests are aligned on this, then this isn't an issue. The issue I feel is that if you're a transactional realtor, by that I mean you're not in the property management game, it could be very tempting to want to just forego a lot of the preliminary checks just to speed things up and move on to the next transaction, especially if you're extremely busy. Now, this isn't to say that all realtors are transaction focused only. That's not true. I know plenty of agents who want nothing to do with management, but still have their clients' best interests in mind and take pride in the work they're doing. So hear that statement before you start typing away how I'm completely wrong on this. But we cannot ignore the fact that there are definitely some transactional agents out there who are focused on doing everything possible to curtail some of the screening safeguards just so they can speed things up. But this poses a very serious issue to landlords who then have to deal with the consequences of tracking down rent, evictions, and potential property damage, all for something that could have been avoided by their realtor in the first place. I also want to add that when I get comments like you're asking for too much information, most of the time comes from agents who are unaware of how to even present an offer or have never even seen a proper screening being conducted before. In other words, there's so many landlords and even agents, believe it or not, who are not handling the tenant screening correctly, and their inability to recognize the inadequacies of their system is seen as the norm. They take everything at face value and don't even know what they should be looking for to begin with, so it's not entirely their fault. After all, this is what they've come to know. But once you are in the know, then I feel that the onus is on you to do everything in your power to see this is done correctly. So what is the conclusion? Using a realtor to rent your property is going to screw you over? That's definitely not what I'm saying. And if you got that message, that wasn't my intention in this video. I'm not trying to disparage the work of real estate agents here. As I mentioned, I myself am a real estate agent, so I would never want to do that. But rather, I want to share my insight, being that I am uniquely qualified to speak on all three areas, as I'm speaking as an agent, an investor, and a property manager. I understand what each side is looking for. I understand how to optimize each side for that matter, and where the friction points lie. And trust me, there are many. In part, I'm making the argument that working with a property manager has its advantages. In a nutshell, they're thinking longer term and further down the road. Their incentives for both managers and investors, I feel, are more aligned when it comes to renting properties. They both want the highest rent possible. They both want the most qualified tenant who's going to pay their rent on time and take care of the property. How they get there and arrive there is also just as important. Now, I hope this video gave you something to think about and consider the next time you're looking to rent your property. And if you found value from the video, then do me a favor and click that thumbs up button. And for more real estate content like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell. Sound off in the comment section below. If you agree with me, if you disagree with me, let me know your thoughts. And if you have any questions, you can always email me. My email can be found in the show notes below. See you all next week, guys. God bless.